David Bay here with Peter McGuff from Miami, the 2015 NPC National Championships from musculardevelopment.com. Peter, just wrapped things up for the men's bodybuilding prejudging. Overall, your thoughts? Down a little from last year?
Down a little from the USA. The USA was really good. I think it was, middle of the road really. There's a few guys really stood out and some guys didn't.
Yeah, at all these national level shows, we have some top quality competitors, but what really sets the good ones apart from the rest are when you have depth of top quality competitors. And it seemed like at the USA's, there were guys not making first call out that, I probably would have been front runners here.
Definitely. I mean, that was, it started off well, and then we got to the end, the heavyweights was a bit disappointing class, big clash in the super heavyweights, which is more than interesting, but what we had nearly 175 bodybuilders, male bodybuilders, and the time just flew by.
It was a long prejudging. Well, let's start off with the start of the bodybuilding prejudging. Our bantams kind of came down to looked what to be a two-man race between Dave Savino and Rafael Campuzano. A little bit different physiques. Who did you have winning that?
I think I had David Savino doing it, probably better condition. The other guy was a little bit fuller, but obviously in the bantamweights, usually condition counts more than anything.
Yeah, so I agree with him, David. Moving on into our lightweight class, not a lot of real standouts in this class either. Anybody really jump out to you?
Well, it seems to me that Jose Fortuna probably will win it. He was really great condition. The other guy in there was Ronald Poe, who again, this was a fuller guy against a more ripped guy, but I think Fortuna was really ripped, particularly from the back.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, Fortuna was the leanest guy in this entire show.
Yeah, he was really impressive, and he's got a certain confidence about him without a swagger, so I think he's probably taken that division.
All right, and we're going to move right on into our welterweights. I got my notes on my phone here. The kid that stood out to me, never heard of him before. I've never seen him on stage before. Theodore Atkins Jr. Now, not the most ripped kid in this class, but as far as an overall package, he looked incredible to me.
Yeah, he had a really good physique, flowing, fully muscled. I've not heard of him before. He's junior. I haven't heard of his dad either. But so he was good to see. He was standout.
All right, and as far as standouts, John Durante's quads are standout. I mean, some of the craziest sweeps I think I've ever seen in a bodybuilder's quads. In the past, John has had difficult dialing his conditioning in. He looks like he nailed it here, and by the way the call-outs were today, he should be in a top 2 spot in the running for a pro card.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, as you say, the quads were outstanding, but he had a general hardness about him, which I think is going to take him into that second place.
All right, well, let's move forward into the middleweights. And to me, as far as a quality balance, just a real standout to this show, who I can only assume is going to be your winner, David Robinson. To me, he was the one guy that really had the wow factor here today.
Yeah, I mean, when they walked out at the beginning, you're always looking and thinking, and he picked he just stood out. Wow, look at this guy. When he walked, it was like an anatomy chart. Everything was there, wasn't it? It was ripped from the side, the hams and everything. It got the full round muscle bellies. It was almost like if you wanted to put a bodybuild together, this is what you'd come up with. It was that good.
Yeah, he really was. I mean, he almost looked like a small Phil Heath.
Yeah, I mean, he had that certain quality about him, the amount of detail and the roundness to him, and a great frame.
All right. Well, some of the other guys that were placing well, we had Rico Zavala. He got third place at North America, or rather won North Americans last year, but missed his pro card. Then he got third place at Nationals. Yeah. So here's a guy who missed his pro card twice. I don't know that he's as lean as we've seen him in the past, but he looks to be in a top 2 spot.
Yeah, he looked to be up there, and I think also in contention was Pablo Ruiz. He's a power pack kind of guy. There's the top 3, but I mean Robinson, I'm sure he's going to win this class, but if you're interested to see him in the overall, can a middleweight take an overall title?
Well, that's something that can be argued. I know I've been here at Nationals before. I think it was a couple of years ago when Thomas Anderson won the middleweights, I believe it was, and I said, this guy's going to take the overall, and it was, once they stand next to some of the bigger guys, they lose some of that wow factor, but definitely a solid middleweight class as far as the top few guys in that division. Moving forward into the light heavyweights, This was kind of the disappointment of the show for me as far as as far as nationals goes, and usually a class that is one of the more competitive where the guys bring good muscularity and conditioning. How did you feel about the light heavies?
Yeah, well, I felt the same. There was quite a few guys in it, like over 25, maybe 30, and the more it went on, you were waiting for something to happen, and it never really did. But I think Jermaine Todd, from that lineup, sort of caught the eye. That's who I was looking at.
Yeah, nice flow to his physique. Mike Gritty, here's a guy who comes out last 2-3 shows that he's done, and you look at him and you say, what if, and you hope he dials it in, and here we are, and once again he comes out, has all the potential to turn pro, but just not lean enough.
Yeah, I mean, these guys keep trying, don't they? And the top two is going to get a pro card anyway, so he could still be in there, but I think Jermaine's just got a bit too much. Yeah.
All right, now moving forward into our heavyweights, this is also another division where, normally we see guys that are in pretty good shape. The super is normally the class where the guys haven't really dialed it in. Yeah. But heavyweights, wasn't, once again, wasn't that wow factor we were looking for. I thought Charles Griffin looked really good. He got third place at the USA's. He's been in the top 5 a few times at national level shows. They kept him in the middle most of the time. I think he's probably going to be your winner.
Yeah, he had a good look to him, really round muscles and well put together. I think he was sort of maybe better from the back, better from the front than he was from the back. But yeah, he'd got a nice balance to his physique. It wasn't just packed with muscle and to hell with it. He had a flow to it. Yeah.
And another newcomer that I haven't seen anywhere on a stage before, Devin Burgess. A little bit tall for the class, so he's definitely going to have to fill out. Potentially could be an incredibly competitive super heavyweight. But as far as structure and flow and everything like that, he really impressed me.
Yeah, definitely had a great frame, narrow waist, broad shoulders, very tall guy. He's going to be a super heavyweight. He's got, he can fill that frame up. He's got lots of room to do it. Although he still looked very, very good because he's got a lot of detail. Although he's a bit long in the limbs, there was a lot of detail there. So he's one to watch for the future, I'm sure.
All right, and also up there in the top of the heavyweights, we had Jeff Cooper, Matthew Schmidt, Christopher Hobbs, Justin Mackey, and DeMar Hampton. Justin, a Midwest guy, third place at Junior Nationals, was in the middle of the first call-out, but then looked like he shifted back a little bit. It's going to have to bring that conditioning from the back in, and he's one to look out for. Moving on to the big class, both literally and figuratively, the super heavyweights. Obviously, this is probably the most hyped up or most anticipated division for this year's show, with some big names like Eddie Bracamonte, Sergio Oliva Jr. coming in. And those are the two that it looks like it really came down to at the end. As you guys saw on the play-by-play, they had their first call out, and they brought back 3, Sergio, Eddie, and Jonathan Irizarry, who we'll get to. How do you see this playing out?
Well, when I was watching it, obviously your eyes were on Sergio because, his name and everything, the travels he's had. And it looked to me like between him and Eddie, 2 different physiques. Again, we had Sergio, this fuller, very much separated, but better than he was at the USA, against a guy who was really hard. But for me, when they were compared, I just felt that Sergio's roundness and more detail in other places took it for him, especially, when it came to the most muscular. He was so round, whereas Eddie was sort of more vascular and hard rather than, overwhelming with muscle.
Yeah, I would have to say flip a coin. I thought those guys both looked really good. Eddie's been a little bit hit or miss at nationals, but he's always placed well. And so that says a lot about his potential and his structure, being that he has been a little bit off at times and still done really well. But he really nailed it. I saw him at weigh-ins. I only saw him hit a couple of poses, but I've been to enough of these shows to know when I see somebody and they're on that they're on. Sergio. Man, the critique from him over and over and over has been his conditioning. He finally, he looks like he dialed it in pretty good.
Yeah, the knock against him at the USA's was his back and his glutes. I hate to talk about men's glutes, but here we go. they were definitely in his hams away, and everything from the side. You know, he made a real point of exaggerating that side chest pose and dipping right down, so you've got all those striations in his side hamstring. So he's obviously put the work in. He was pretty nervous. I spoke to him backstage.
He was that.
I mean, you could see he was breathing heavily and he was looking to the sky at times. You know, this really means a lot to him. You know, I mean, it's been, you know, he's having to live up to that name in many ways, and you know, let's see what happens. I mean, I'm sure he's. I'd take him for the winner, but surely he's going to be second, if not first.
All right, and some of the other names in the top five, don't want to forget about Jonathan Irizarry. Now, here's a guy who came out 2 years ago in 2013, placed sixth place in the heavyweights, came back last year. Nobody really knew what he was doing. He kind of last minute it, and I think he had made a commitment to do it. His heart wasn't in it, didn't place very well. Came back this year, said he was going to be a super heavyweight, but only by a few pounds. I think 230 or so. I know some people had questions as to whether he was going to be competitive as a super heavyweight. He certainly was. Can't really overlook him.
Yeah, he had a nice little package there, didn't he? And he came into it towards the end. And like you say, they called him out with Sergio and Eddie at the end. I mean, but one guy that we're all astounded by was Rasij Oldacre, you know, the huge guy. 274 pounds. I mean,
yeah, this guy, guys, I'm telling you, you see this guy hit all his shots, and he basically looks like a pro guest posing here. I mean,
Yeah.
he's so massive. He hits his frontal bicep, and you're like, this guy could be competitive at any pro show, including the Arnold and the Olympia. I mean, he was that big. I mean, if this guy, let's say, you know, for the sake of discussion, he's dialed in. Does anybody even come close to him today?
no, because he had all the muscle groups there and he had good proportions to it. He wasn't a guy that was too heavy and looked like a monster. You could tell if he came down, he'd still be a freak, but you know, a freak that had proportion and full round muscles. You know.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it for us. We're going to wrap up this wrap up. We're going to wrap up the wrap up. Make sure to check back tomorrow, guys. Prejudging starts at 8 o'clock tomorrow. I believe final starts at 5. It's going to be a long day full of a lot of exciting stuff. We're going to find out who goes home with a pro card, who goes home empty-handed, who walks away the overall winner. But once again, check for all the videos, play-by-play, and everything you guys are used to from musculardevelopment.com. But that's going to do it for us. So once again, David Bay with Peter McGuff from Miami for the 2015 NPC Nationals. We're out.